Welcome to our class. In this class, we will look at the heading level elements and some other commonly used HTML elements. So I have a file open in my Adobe Brackets editor, and here is my doc type. Underneath the doc type, I have an HTML comment. This is the opening comment tag. This is the closing comment tag. You will commonly see developers using comments to document information about that file and also to include information inside the body tag. Here we have our opening HTML element, our head section, and here is our body section. In the body, I have 6 heading level elements. So we have an opening H1 tag and a closing H1 tag. HTML elements consist of tags. Most elements contain 2 tags. Elements that are two-sided generally will contain content. The head section contains content. It contains other tags. It does not contain text. However, the title element contains text, as do our heading elements. So HTML elements will either contain text or other elements or both. One-sided elements only consist of an opening tag, and those elements generally do something in and of itself. You may see one-sided elements with a forward slash at the end or a space and a forward slash. This was the old XHTML syntax, where a one-sided element had to be self-terminated. That was done away with in HTML5, and I prefer not to use that closing slash. In HTML, we have heading level elements, H1 being the largest, H6 being the smallest. HTML is a language that describes the structure of the document. It is not a formatting language. However, certain elements do have some formatting characteristics, such as these different heading level elements are large and they're bold. Headings are used for that, for headings. In your document, you may have different areas that should be preceded by a heading. In HTML, our elements have what is called a semantic meaning. Tags should be used for their purposes. H1 elements are used to indicate the highest level heading. It is not used to make some text large. If you want to make text large, you use CSS, which we will learn later. This is important because screen readers use the structure of the document, such as heading level tags, when interpreting and reading back to a visually impaired person. Search engines also use heading level tags to infer importance. So if I were to load this in the browser, you see what they look like. The size is determined by the browser. So it is just a general relative size that the browser is setting. Notice that each heading level element stacks on top of each other. If I were to go into the code and place them side by side, they would still stack on top of each other. That is because they are what are called block level elements. A block level element has a carriage return after it, and it has a margin underneath and a margin on top, meaning things will automatically stack. This is a very important concept in HTML. Most elements are block level elements. You may also hear them referred to as container elements, meaning they contain content that defines the page structure. Because my heading level elements are short, I write them across. Here, I have my opening tag and my closing tag. So this is the P element. Content should always be placed inside an element, not just underneath the body tag. So if I were to save this and I were to view it in the browser, there is space on the top and space on the bottom. A block quote element is used for quotation. Notice the difference between the block quote and the paragraph. The paragraph extends from the left to the right. The block quote has an indentation on the left and the right. Also, it is a block level element. If I wanted to separate lines of text from each other, I don't necessarily need to use another paragraph element. I can use a line break, and this is the one-sided BR element. A one-sided tag or element does something. It does not contain content. You might see this BR written with a forward slash or a space in a forward slash. That is the old XHTML syntax, and we no longer need to do that. So if I were to save this and look at it in the browser, here you see there is the line break. So now the sentence underneath drops down to the next line. Two breaks would give you a little more space, and here you see. However, everything is still one paragraph. In older versions of HTML, we commonly used an align attribute to do things such as centering. So here we have an attribute and a value being set inside this tag. I would like to point out that this is deprecated. It is not part of HTML5, and you will lose points for using this. However, it does work. And now we see this center. You will learn how to center text using CSS. I would like to point out that a lot of older code is still on the internet and always will be. So please make sure that you know the difference between the new and the old code. In HTML, we have what are called inline elements. An inline element differs from a block level element in that there is no separation before or after these tags. Inline means it goes with the flow. So here I have an EM and a strong element. It goes with the flow. There will be no separation. The EM is used to indicate emphasis. The strong is used to indicate importance. So these are semantic meanings. If you want to make it italicized, you can use CSS. If you want to make it bold, you can use CSS. We use HTML elements to convey meaning and structure. So if I save this, you will see that there is a formatting to this. Again, HTML is used for describing the nature of the document and the content, not for formatting. We also have a new HTML5 inline element called mark. It's very interesting, and it highlights text, such as you're marking up the document in order to show something to someone.